Okay, and then moving on from there, we obviously wanted to talk about like our opinions of like what's the best deck at the moment, and then obviously like meta wise, rogue wise, budget wise, etc. I mean, we touched on a little bit as we were going through the representation, but like, what do you feel is like top of the tier list at the moment?
Okay, so I think it changed a little bit with the most recent LCS as well. That was obviously after this event. So like, I think that event really opened everyone's eyes to Small World as a card. Like, I think it's changed the way a lot of decks play. So I think there's definitely like a lot of arguments for like what decks are a lot stronger. And I think there's like a lot of room for the meta to develop just because of what that card is actually doing in the form. Like I've seen my Dolce deck this top. I've seen like
Yeah.
any deck that kind of needed a consistency bump. People are working out ways to work in Small World and
Yeah.
like. But the meta is I don't think it's super well defined at the moment. But I think in my opinion, like the best decks at the moment, best combo, probably try Lyrilisk. I think its ability to even through the hand traps it's bad into, like it can do so many different things depending on like what turn it's going. Like for example, I feel Nib is super strong into that deck if they're going second, just because they're going to turbo into Zeus before anything else. Whereas like Nib going first is not a bad card, but like it's not going to be as impactful because they're going to have to Nib before they make the F0. So you're still going to be dealing with quite a hectic board.
Yeah.
Like the remainder, because they're gonna like go for like different lines. So like, but going second when they try and make the Zeus and then try and make some plays afterwards, it can be very strong. But yeah, try Lyrilisk, probably best combo deck. I think I'm gonna add Sword Soul to like the best decks of the format, but it's also I don't think it's the best deck situated to beat all of the meta matchups. But it's definitely the best deck situated to beat Rogue. Like, there's no other deck that can like have no fear of almost any Rogue matchup. Like you're almost like you walk in there, your deck's more consistent. Your deck sets out boards they can't deal with. So I would definitely say that. I think Shadol Invoked also maybe not Shadol Invoked Dogmatica, but slept on.
Yeah.
I think Winder right now is really powerful. I think the only danger being that people are actually on chalices and out to it, but the deck can play tons of hand drops, play the DPE package. Like I think it's also really good. Also, you can play Small World. You can do some pretty nasty things with that. But yeah, I think that would be PK a huge jump when the Brave engine comes out. You don't sleep on that. For far as budget goes, Virtual is definitely your best bet. Like that deck can still play. And I think also, in my opinion, there's like two ways to learn to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Like you can start Yu-Gi-Oh! Out and your friend can set you up with Mystic Mine or some guru control thing and you can sit on floodgates and you can win some games, but you're not improving as a player.
Yeah.
Like if you can learn to like do Virtual combos and learn all of Virtual's lines, then like picking up any deck becomes quite easy.
Definitely.
So like, in my opinion, like if you're a starting player, like invest the time into it. Like have a friend teach you it, learn your matchups, learn your interactions. Because by the time you move on to another deck, you'll be able to play it damn well.
Yeah.
So I think that would probably be my recommendation for budget.
Yeah. I think also like with VW especially, like there's like quite a few different versions available, you know. So you have like obviously Kaliga Lock, and then you have the Beatrice play for that.
Oh yeah,
that's
for sure.
yeah.
It's also I think it's a deck that with it's a weird one because you also don't have a lot of space in the deck, but it definitely lets you flex your creativity.
Yes.
Especially when it comes to picking your combo lines.
Yeah.
Like my biggest thing is you can always tell like a good Virtual World player apart from a bad one because when they get hand trapped enough, they start setting up for next turn instead of like trying to play through to a suboptimal board. Like it'll be like when they go for the M7 add backs and then like you'll start seeing that they start setting up to like they're like, okay, I'm in trouble now. I can't just shen pass or nothing. This is really bad. Let me start making sure I have resources to play the game next turn as well. And it's a deck that does like it rewards resource management, it rewards deck building. Like it teaches you a lot of like the fundamentals of the game.
Yeah.
It's very fun and it definitely can compete with like the other strong decks in the format.
Definitely. Cool. Cool. Yeah, I'll probably agree with you. Like in terms of like top tier, definitely Bird Up feels like it's probably the strongest deck. I think so. Also, like from my perspective, I mean, you probably had a lot more like testing against the deck and stuff like that, but it feels like it's also up there. But I definitely think Bird Up is probably a little bit ahead. It's just like if you droll them, then they just start sending stuff to the graveyard, and then special summoning from the graveyard instead.
Yeah,
and that
and like
kind
also
of
the hand
it's
traps
just
you
so
see can be
flexible.
so weird. Like I was gonna say, like sometimes you can see Lancia and open a handful.
Yes.
Sometimes you see Lancia and they've got a handful of birds, and you're like,
what do I
sign?
sign?
Like,
Do I need both? And then literally, I think I was playing Jody, and then I think I used Droll. I think it was Bell and something else in that one turn, and he still made 4 material Zeus. And it's like, okay, so what exactly did I do? I just went -3 for no reason.
But yeah, it's definitely one of those decks. Look, it is one of those decks where you, I think the format's a bit weird. Again, with the exception of maybe Drytron for me, but you definitely get rewarded if your deck can play through boards at the moment. Because even though like Bird Ups is rough, but like you see your droplets, you see your like world time, like you can actually like play through the board instead of just accept the. It's definitely not an FTK format. Like going first is a huge advantage, but like seeing the right cards definitely lets you like enter a state of grind. And the thing is, like a lot of those decks obviously do set up really good follow up.
Yes.
So you can't just break the board; you got to break it and set up your own.
Yes.
That's kind of like where you got to differentiate, whether your deck's good at going second or not.
Definitely. Cool. And then in terms of like the meta and stuff, what good cards would you say, in terms of siding or,
so
effective at the moment,
Definitely. In my opinion, for that event, Droll should have been in the main. I was disrespecting Drytron. The deck definitely does stuff, and Droll's actually like honestly
decent
really
against most.
It's really good against a lot of the meta. Like it's like even like birds, there's hands it hurts it really badly. There's hands. I mean, even Sword Soul can hit them in awkward hands if they have to resolve a pot first or they start their searches. You can like deny blackout access, which is nice.
It's decent against like Dragon Link as well.
It's very good against dragons. It's very good against dragon. Like again, they can see hands and play through it, but like majority of hands, it's definitely stopping like some combo and sometimes all of it. There were a couple other matchups I thought it was quite like it's also good against like V-Will. I think the thing about Droll, in my opinion, is it deals with a lot of the decks that I would define as what they do is unfair. Like if you're playing like a deck with a good engine and you just want to grind, then like for example like PK or Live Twins or like stuff like that, then Droll doesn't hurt those decks, but you also don't just lose like turn one if you don't play. Like if you want to start setting up for your second turn, you can start playing grind Yu-Gi-Oh. Then you can still win with your engine as opposed to the cards. Whereas like if you let Drytron, for example, like full combo, it's not going to be grind Yu-Gi-Oh anymore. So I definitely think that is. I think other things that are like super meta defining. I think Scythe and Destiny or Phoenix Enforcer.
Oh yes,
like
definitely.
That combo is nuts. Like if you're disrespecting that as well, if you don't have sides or main deck things to deal with that, you can just drop games for no reason. Like,
and it's literally any deck that can put 4 monsters on field.
It's exactly what it is.
Can literally do that and then OTK you next turn.
That's also like another thing that makes Drytron a bit better. Like one of the Drytron players was on that package. Like you like hand trapped him a bit, and then they like I hand trapped my guy 3 times, and he had 2 monsters on board, made a Dagda and activated fusion from hand, and I was like, well, that's yours. You deserve it. Outplayed you. So definitely another meta defining package, something you got to like respect in your deck building. If not in your main, then definitely in your side. Like it definitely can do a lot of damage. And also dealing with DPE in general is hard for a lot of rogue decks. Like you have to have like non-destruction outs that also they can't play around because they just pop themselves and keep recurring. You start negging an advantage. Another reason like back row decks are suffering a bit, like DPE puts huge pressure on them. Like you're losing 2 cards, like a card on your turn, a card on their turn. It's a big body. It keeps coming back. And if your like removal is torrential or your removal is punishment, you're not getting rid of the card. So I think a way to respect that's also super important. Small World, that is probably going to be the meta-defining card at the moment, in my opinion. I don't think it was as big in this event, but also not a lot of people had started getting super creative with ways to use it. Like I think a lot of like decks people thought weren't playable. I think, my opinion, the biggest thing that always differentiates Rogue from meta is consistency. like decks like that, like meta decks are put out their best turn every board, but that's not to say if you let a rogue deck choose 3 cards from the deck to start in their hand, they aren't setting up boards that you can't break either.
Yeah.
Like things like Time Thieves, things like there's very like weird niche decks that can do like really, really potent boards. They just don't have the consistency to like put it out every time. Madolche is a great example. ABC, like Prosperity helped that out a lot. Now they've got Small World as well.
Yeah.
So I think you're going to start seeing a lot of like very weird like niche decks popping up everywhere now, because people can start playing them because they can start seeing their starters even in bad hands.
Yeah.
So I think that's another one. And then I think the other card of the format to think about would be obviously Droplets.
Yes.
I think Droplets puts in a lot of work now because it like not only breaks boards and deals with it deals with DPE, it deals with Scythe, it deals with the bird up board if they don't set up the Oath. It can like one card swap itself for 3 or 4 negates. Like it's really, really, really strong at the moment, especially if your deck like has the room to discard stuff to like make it plusable as well, if that makes sense. Like,
yeah.
But yeah, I think those would probably be my picks for like the most format defining and like strong side or main deck cards, like as far as cards go.
And how do you feel like about like board breakers like Lightning and Evenly, etc.? Because those seem to be a lot more popular now, or
they're a lot better now. Like,
yeah, a lot more viable now.
Yeah, exactly. Like a lot of the combo decks aren't setting up Spell Trap negates. Like even birds, like sometimes they commit to the barrier statue. Like if they're on the barrier statue build instead of the Apex Avion, there's nothing on the end board that'll stop an Evenly from ripping it to pieces. Like so yeah, I think those cards are definitely a lot stronger, and it's also they've got I think a lot of utility. I think Evenly is very slept on at the moment. Like it really is. It puts in a lot of work, especially with that Sky Prison card as well. Like backcourt decks also, like every deck kind of got huge boosts in Bird. Hey, like Bird put in work
crazy.
For, like, everything. Like I'm just saying the reason I was always anti-back row is you can go set 5 and there's a lot of 1 cards that'll just break your board right there.
Yeah.
Now you have a lot more options to like say, no, you don't break my board, and I'll play through 3 strikes into like there's no deck that like just plays through that kind of stuff. Like as strong as the deck is, strike is a card. Strike is a very strong card.
Yeah.
Cards like Ice Dragons also. There's like a lot of really good traps in the I want to say quote unquote meta game, because none of them are super meta at the moment. But I was definitely you'll also see also like overseas a lot more like back row decks are topping. So
and like also like Crow seems to be back. Because it other than like
a Scythe, my friend.
Well, Scythe. I mean DP itself. But other than it seems like everything other than Sword Souls, it kind of hits somewhere. Because like if it's Cobalt in Graveyard and they activate Berry, that's kind of viable.
Well, like I said, like the Scythe. I mean, even if Sword Soul, like a lot of Sword Soul players are on the DPE at the moment, that's a huge hit there. Like it's like it's at a weird point where like everyone's always like on the rage about Imperm because it's live as your 6th card. Crow's live as your 6th card too at the moment. Like you can draw that as your 6th card and it can straight up like get you back into the game. Like you can banish a Scythe that they pop, you can banish the DPE, you can like it's really, really impactful.
Even against Dragon Link, I mean if it's Sphere and they try to activate a bounce, I mean banish and then
that EU and are on the same page. Like it's definitely one of the regrets of the weekend actually was that I wasn't playing Crow. It's just it's also like it's decent as a hand trap against everything, but it's also super impactful against a lot of stuff, and I think that gets away with a lot.
Definitely. Cool. And then like what kind of spicy tech do you have hidden in your laboratory?
Well, some of the stuff that I did play for the weekend that was a little less conventional. So I was on for example, I was on Book of Eclipse.
Cool.
And that was a lot for the bird up board. So in the same way, they don't really set up spell trap, especially game 1. So the theory was that even droplets is good, but you have to discard a lot to make it. So I was on droplets definitely play it, but you have to discard a lot to make it live against that matchup. Like you can't afford to really lose 3-4 hand cards against birds and then be like, let's play Yu-Gi-Oh! I've got this. Like it's nasty. Whereas like if you can bait out the Avion or they go for the barrier statue instead and you resolve the Book of Eclipse, it just outs their whole board, like 1 card. So it definitely pressures a lot. Like I think the other thing is, and it was just my opinion, and I said it in my deck profile as well. If your deck can turbo out Zeus, consider trying out Book of Eclipse. Like it's definitely, you can rip whole board. Like they're not getting the draws for it. It's non-targeting. Like they can't sit and hide behind like Dragoon kind of. You bait out the Dragoon effect, Book of Eclipse outs it, and then Book of Eclipse, and it's cool in the main, but it does something that's a little bit better than Droplets in that it's super impactful going first. It's a Book of Moon for 2 often, like when you like are playing them, even if they do get the draws in the end phase, so long as your deck's engine punishes them for not playing a turn properly, then it doesn't matter. Like if I told you could draw 2 cards but you skip a turn, that's not a
that's not good.
that's not good. Nobody's taking that deal.
Yeah.
Like so I definitely think that was one of the spicy things I tried out, and it was really good. Actually, it came from Ben because I think he was testing out Swords of Concealing Light. I was like, damn, if only there was a quick play version of this. And I was like, hold up,
actually
wait a second. There's something that can go in the main deck. And it's like really decent into like a lot of matchups. So for example, one of the things about Dragon Link can combo really well if you leave them with dragons on board. So they play through Imperms and Vaders like it's nothing. Because they'll normal a dragon, they'll link, you'll Imperm or Veiler is safer, they'll link it away, knock division or trigger in hand. Whatever. When those monsters start going face down and they lose it, their extension becomes a lot worse. Like for example, if they have 2 dragons on the board and both of them flip, their Nocturs aren't live anymore. If they didn't go to grave, they can't banish them for the chaos engine. Like it becomes very difficult for them to extend if they don't search the bootleg. So that was the one thing I tried out that was really cool. Then one of the other MVPs of the tournament for me, I was on enemy controller in the main. It has a lot of synergy with my deck.
Yeah.
So that was definitely a twin thing, but it was also.
It's pretty good in Bird Flu. In Floanderies. Yeah, it's pretty good with them as well.
I was gonna say the cheek behind it now is that Sword Soul kind of play a lot like Salad did, where they need their monsters for their traps to be live. Like I don't know if you remember like Salad format where people would set up their raw rage and you'd super poly their wolf and their like Salad away, and suddenly their back row switches off as well.
Yep.
Sword Soul's the same. Like if you normal it, in my case a twin, and they try to negate it with the synchro, and then you enemy controller tribute your monster, take their synchro, they lose the blackout as well, and your effect resolves. So like it's like one of those decks where the monster removal can actually make the deck suffer a lot.
Yeah.
Even for example like Kaiju is great. They're on like Baroness and just the synchro, and you Kaiju it, that's 2 for 1. They've lost their negate, they've lost their blackout, and I used to play around a Baroness. So I think those were my spicy take. I wouldn't say the other thing I was on, and it wasn't too spicy, is I was siding the artifact package. My deck doesn't really dagger very well unless you try play there's like parallel XE's versions, but I don't know, it starts getting a bit. It becomes what I like to call the Dragon Link problem, where if your monster gets removed from the board, your hand dies. You're like normal twins and they get bounced, and suddenly you're like, oh, what am I going to do with this parallel XEs? It suddenly switched off. So I didn't like that. That's why I was on the Dogmatica stuff instead, because then if they have extra monsters, my hand still continues to play itself. So it like plays through even though you lose your on-board resources. But definitely put in work. Like I cannot believe. Like I think if you can do like Dagda Scythe Pop, but even just if your deck doesn't have access to that sliding the artifact engine, it's good against everything better at the moment, except maybe Flander, obviously.
Yeah. Cool.
Anything from your side on the spicy checks?
I think for me the only thing like way out of the ordinary was I played Zombie World. So I played Banshee Zombie World with Beatrice in the side. So because obviously it's pretty good against birds, and then if
it can be weird against birds here, because like all the XEs require
they just
like sometimes it just Zeus you, it doesn't matter.
Definitely.
But it definitely stops the tripod of the
it depends. I think like with like I'm obviously playing VW, so it's like Crystal Wing, Chuchi Pop, and then lock you out of
sure.
So that kind of like works out, and then
not bad
it's not bad.
Also against like pure try, and like there's definitely a lot of matchups.
It's pretty good against
hurts dragons.
Yes, it like really hurts dragons, and then it does kind of hurt souls a little bit, because a lot of their synchros require worms. So automatically you shut that off, and then if they make a token and then you put Zombie World up, so it's locking them out of linking.
Yeah, I
So
get
if you,
it.
yeah, so it just makes it a little bit more awkward. It's not that they can't break the pod. It's just
Yeah,
they cut
makes them have
they
to spend some resources
yeah,
for
they
it.
only have like 1/3 of the extra deck that they can access to
Mm.
try and play around you.
Pretty good
So
against Flunder as well, isn't it?
very
You
good
can't
against
contribute
Flunder.
except for you can't contribute
Yeah,
except for zombies.
it's very good against Flunder. So it was a bit weird, bit wonky, but like it came up a few times and it was fairly
Put
decent.
in work. Okay,
And
that's
then
nice.
I played what you call it, Solemns as well, because so many people are are playing board breakers, dark rulers,
Yeah.
lightning storm, etc. It just
You need a way to respond.
yeah, like fair enough, IO and what do you call it, anti-spell and stuff. All that's great, but like sometimes it might be like a droplet that comes down like in chain.
No, I was going to say I definitely
Yeah.
respect judgment over like anti-spell and a lot of man. Like the thing about
Yeah.
anti-spell is like judgment goes in when you go first against everything.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to
Yeah.
like anti-spell's good against some stuff, bad against others. And
Yeah.
judgment you'll always get if you're going first and you set a judgment, you'll always get use out of that judgment.
Yeah.
Like
Well, in
it's not a
fact,
single matchup like
I put it in to stop the dark rulers and the droplets and
Yeah.
lightning evenly, etc. But I didn't use it for that. Like it ended
Yeah.
up being okay. They're gonna make a link monster that I can't leave on field.
Exactly.
It's something
Or a
like
normal
that.
summon that you're just going to be like, no, that's too
Yeah,
much advantage.
or they
right
just
there.
activated mine. That came up as well.
That's it.
Yeah, we judgment those. Yeah, but that worked out really well, and that was odd because I wasn't really playing any strikes or anything of the sort prior. It was just like 2 anti-spell, and then just hand traps, etc. So that was pretty good.
Okay.
I also didn't play any back row removal, which was weird, but I just felt like I needed more space for the meta, so that I was like, if I go up against one
I
of
was
these
going to
threes,
say, just as a definitely a good meta call, because like I was saying, Sword Call just forces back row so far,
Yeah.
so far out of the meta game. That, like,
yeah. So I was like, if I go up against Geist or something, I'll take the loss and see
Yeah.
how it goes. But luckily, there wasn't much of
Okay.
that. Yeah.
Oh yeah. You got to be brave man to play Geist in a Sword Soul form.
Fair. Cool. Anything else from your side? Any thoughts?
No,
Anything
I think that
I think we
covers
covered.
everything. Watch
Yeah.
out for Small World. It's gonna it's gonna shake up the metagame a lot.
Definitely. Yeah. I'm
Uh,
happy I
if
got
you
those
can-
early.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and if you can be creative with it, man, don't be the guy that net decks every sword. So like, there's a lot of stuff people haven't worked out how to play around with that card yet. So like,
Yeah.
you can definitely do. I mean, there's definitely some cool niche interactions with that. So
Yeah.
be creative. It's like a really fun format for like deck design at the moment. You can get away with a lot.
Yeah.
And if you wanted to play your bad combo that people are also not on hand traps as much, like it depends on the player. Like a lot of them are on, a lot of them aren't. Like it's like you can get away with a lot in this format. I think it's shaping up to be quite a fun one.
Yeah, I think so as well. And especially with like all of the board breakers and stuff. I mean, it's forcing us to play differently. It's not just like Drytron, build your board and then okay, FTK. You're gonna have to do something different because there's gonna be something there. There's gonna be an evenly. There's gonna be something.
Exactly.
Coming your way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's also
And
like
crows
weird
and-
because you have to like side to still respect Drytron, but like
Yes.
then you're not gonna have to worry about it as much because there's like a lot of things that really like kind of force it out the meta game. But as soon as you start siding for that stuff, Drytron becomes better, and then like
Yeah.
so
And then, like,
it's very very cool.
Weirdly enough, like crossout is like unplayable now almost because.
You don't know what your
Yeah.
opponent's on at the moment.
Yeah.
You're for sure. You're sitting there with your cross out and your nibs and like they're busy like dark rulering, lightning storming you. And the next opponent, you're like, okay, we're gonna cross out with the dark root, and then they're coming.
They're
with the
dropping
nibs,
crows
and
and
yeah, exactly.
and ogre.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you were playing.
Okay. That was an ogre. Ogre played work. Ogre, specifically, it was for the sword soul matchup. Like it was, I was expecting
Yeah.
a lot of them, and it definitely did put in work.
Yeah.
Put in work against Dragon Link as well. Like the ogre, no better feeling than popping an ogre on a boot sector launch. Like,
Definitely.
yeah, it's just absolutely disgusting.
Cool. So yeah, Byron, thanks for your time. Well done on your win for the event. But yeah, it was a lot of like good insight into like the meta and the event itself. Obviously going forward as well because of everything that's changed since Bode. But yeah,
For sure.
It was a really good chat with you.
Yeah. Dude, thanks for the discussion. Shout out Team Flex Gaming, the second best team in South Africa.
Ah, second best, really?
team Overlift, the first up and coming and first best team, you know.
We will have our answer for this soon, though.
We're deciding
Of
just
course.
for people interested. We're thinking about having a nice 3v3 or Iron Man or also something to settle it. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. So looking forward to that.
Definitely, man.
Yeah, and then also check out my YouTube channel,
Yes.
before YGO. So.
Yeah, I mean, we've been waiting for you to do this for a while, dude. Everyone comes to you for advice anyway, so I mean. No, cool. No,
I appreciate you, man.
It was really good to see that you actually started up your channel and you're going through your decks and so on, because you put a lot of thought into your decks, and a lot of your decks are very unorthodox, you know. So I know you like what you like, but also like there's a lot of thought that went into like why you're playing that and how you're playing it. And, yeah.
I think my first regional win was with Magical Muskets, and like that was also a valid format and stuff. Like that's when I started saying like I want to play decks that I like and see how I can make those decks combat the meta rather than the other way around. Yeah,
no, definitely. No, cool. So we'll be looking forward to all of your content, in future, and
Thanks
we'll
so much,
see you soon, dude. Yeah, definitely.
Cheers.
Cool.